So I always thought that the mountains allowed me to sort of see more clearly, think more clearly. And there's this phrase that comes from one of my favorite thinkers that I think plays a large part in a lot of my songs. And that is, culture is not your friend. And one of my favorite thinkers is Terence McKenna, who said that. And so what does he mean by that? There's something about the concrete jungle, the advertisements, the billboards, the signs, the things saying, cut reality this way and that way. No doubt some sort of cultural necessity, right? Some sort of evolution, a necessity of evolution. But nonetheless, for someone like me, maybe it's different for you guys, maybe it's different for other people, but for someone like me, drenching myself in a cultural morass is sometimes detrimental to my creativity, to my mental health, to my notions of reality as being something that's more of magical, a magical incantation, than it is the random, practical, estranged reality that I think a lot of people sort of subconsciously fall upon in our culture. And so, we come from the same genetics. We are the same genetics of hunter-gatherers, right? Yet we haven't yet crossed over into some sort of, AI apocalypse, or we're not yet androids, even though we definitely have one foot in, right? But we nonetheless have engaged in this Promethean path. And as a result of the contract that we signed when we began sort of a new singularity of culture and language, we have lost a part of the original human soul. Now, we've gained a lot. Don't get me wrong, we've gained a lot. But at the same time, whereas before you were a hunter-gatherer, for example, and you had a certain nexus or set of factors that might bring a lot of, satisfaction and satiation to your soul as a human being. You have community, you have your tribe, you have exercise, you have the natural world, you have natural food, maybe. And so, in other words, a species wouldn't come about most of the time in an environment that couldn't sustain it in some sort of, continually sustainable way that's at least healthy for that organism. So somewhere along the line, some person, even though this is just a poetic way to put it, some person uttered a word, ooh, there's a line, ooh, ooh. And at that point, we started to create a virtual reality in our minds. We started to segment the world, which gave us a certain power, no doubt. Now we have silicone chips and nuclear fusion, apparently, and we've gone to space, and we're thinking about going to Mars, and it's pretty incredible. I'm not trying to put down the evolutionary process, but what I'm saying is, for most people, we don't examine what that does to our soul, or what it can do to our soul for sort of an unexamined life. But whereas before you were a sort of jack of all trades tribesman, that many of your physical, mental, and emotional powers were, very well suited in most of the time to deal with that level of being a hunter-gatherer in a tribe. Now you're the butcher, you're the baker, you're the candlestick maker, and language has allowed for that type of culture and civilization to arise. Segmenting reality, segmenting our culture, allowing for social organization, but at the same time saying you're there, this class, this, level of society, king, peasant, whatever it may be. And not that those primate politics don't exist in attenuated forms in the natural world, of course they do. But nonetheless, culture in this necessary evolutionary process has and can steal away some of the soul satisfaction of what it is to be a human being. And what do I mean by that? If you're not careful, subtly, these divisions in reality, divisions in culture, can create divisions in reality in your mind in a way that estranges you from the sort of soul honey that is reality. And for me, I've done a lot of hiking. I was lucky enough to do 1,000 miles through Montana and 500 miles through Colorado on the Colorado Trail and the Continental Divide Trail. And it was those times that, bathrooms became weird, cars became weird, culture was weird, You could sit outside of it in a way that I never had before, because it was 57 days, for example, when we went 1,000 miles in Montana. And you get to live and breathe in a natural world in a way that maybe it was just my brain, but I felt like a fish that had jumped out of the cultural fishbowl into an ocean, of reality's possibilities, and then possibilities of my own soul, as a living, breathing human being. I think that can be grayed out when we spend too much time, imbibing culture without being too conscious of it, especially where the people who are the cultural creators have profit motive or power motive. And that's all part of the evolutionary process. But I'm just suggesting that you got this one precious life. Your heart only beats, so many times, at least, in your particular form now. And so thus, the most precious thing you have is the ability to fully imbibe your own experience, the love in your life, the joy in your life, even the sorrow. It's part of the drama. And so if that is being impinged upon by the virtual reality that's been placed upon your mind through the mimetic structure of culture, you're the butcher, you're the baker, you're the candlestick maker. You've now put yourself in a box that, per your genetics, per your hunter-gatherer lineage, probably doesn't exactly satisfy your soul. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys say I'm very happy being the butcher, but I would suggest that we as human beings have a latitude of soul that can only sometimes be discovered outside of culture, and whatever that means for you. For me, I very much enjoy the wilderness. That is one major key and has been a major inspiration for many of my songs and my perspectives, and a validation of things that I've heard, because you hear things in philosophy, or you hear things conceptually, and you say, oh, that sounds nice, that seems that 1 + 1 = 2, but it's not until you drink from that fountain of experience that you say, now I see, now I get it. And I just warn that so many of us are, by circumstances, financial circumstances, economical circumstances, cultural circumstances, are that fish in a tiny little fishbowl. And we keep hitting the sides and we feel bad about it, but we're not realizing there's a whole ocean out there. And what a tragedy it is to be distant from your own soul in that way, the soul of collective humanity, by means of having imprinted your brain with a virtual reality of culture that's practical and functional for an evolving society, but sometimes can poison the soul in a way that makes you not be able to appreciate the precious moments of your life. And so, yes, culture is a part of the natural evolution of humanity and the evolution of the cosmos at large, but our culture is still, I would suggest, rudimentary. We haven't actually even reached a global culture yet. And so take it with a grain of salt, hold it in one hand, and in the other hand, hold your, human essence, hold your own, life that leads all the way back to hydrogen and helium, that you could say, okay, who was my dad, who was his dad, who was his dad or mom, all the way back. Okay, then Earth was birthed. Okay, then the star was formed, and keep rolling the tape back, hydrogen becoming helium, Big Bang. You can trace your lineage all the way back. You've been carrying a torch this entire time that's been handed to you from the previous successive evolutionary waves of energy. And what a shame it is to have forsaken that torch, and sort of been blinded by culture. And so I would just, that's a lot of the themes of my music, that's in there. I wanted to mention that, but I would just urge you all to possibly spend some time in nature. That's just one of the ways that you can reconnect with that original notion of reality for whatever it is and what it's worth. No one can define it for you, and we're all here to define it sort of for ourselves, and then we'll put it all into that collective hat. So, hope you guys get to find time in the mountains.